Well, we are officially underway with PlanetSide 2's updates in 2023, kicking us off with the Love Letter update, which is essentially the Valentine's Day themed update that we are used to seeing every year. Normally, I wouldn't really bother too much covering such an update, but this time around we are seeing additional features, reworks, and cleanups coming to the game that just give the update a little bit more substance than we're used to seeing. So, g'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're going to unpack the Love Letter update and talk about some of the key entries on offer here today. So, getting straight into it, one of the big headlining features of this entire update was the integration of NVIDIA DLSS and AMD FSR functionality to the game, that being NVIDIA Deep Learning Super Sampling technology and AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution respectively. For those who are a little out of the loop as to what these actually are, these are upscaling functionalities that are built into graphics cards that aim to improve frame rates by creating upscaled versions of lower end resolutions. To get a bit more technical with NVIDIA DLSS, aka the technology I've had some exposure with, it essentially takes a lower resolution input and uses artificial intelligence to then reconstruct a higher resolution image by filling in the gaps with AI generated pixels. Now, it's a pretty nifty trick that has become more and more common across PC gaming, especially as technologies like ray tracing become more prevalent and resolution and refresh rates become higher across the board on gaming monitors. Games are becoming more technically advanced, and gaming monitors that we're running them on have better resolutions and higher refresh rate caps. So it's a win-win situation, and it sounds great that it's here for PlanetSide 2, right? We've been having performance issues with this game for years. Is this finally the silver bullet? Well, unfortunately guys, this is where I step up to serve a teaspoon of reality and some bad news here. You see, PlanetSide 2 does run like crap in even medium-sized fights more often than not. And if you land yourself in a 96 plus aside fight, especially when explosions are just going off everywhere, yeah, say goodbye to your frame rate entirely. However, this is not the fault of the GPU. PlanetSide graphically is a game that, while yes, it looks half decent for its age of 10 years, is not an overly GPU heavy game to run. No, it's actually your CPU doing the majority of the heavy lifting here, modeling all of the player interactions, dealing with the projectiles, the works, and then having to do that for potentially hundreds of players in one battle. It's why whenever someone asks me about key upgrades for this game with their hardware, I always tell them to focus on their CPU first, unless they're running something like a GTX 680 or something. You know, in PlanetSide, the CPU is what keeps the game churning in those big fights that you'll come across more often than not. You can actually see this bottleneck in action. If you were to type /FPS into the game's chat, you'll actually get a readout of your frame rate in game and what side of your system is bottlenecking that frame rate. 9 times out of 10, your CPU is going to be the bottleneck. Now, bringing this back to DLSS and FSR, unfortunately, these technologies are both designed to take load off of your GPU and make its workload more efficient, not your CPU, which means that, yeah, for the majority of you, this is going to be a pretty useless feature as far as frame rate is concerned for the majority of situations you'll face in PlanetSide 2. Now, keep in mind, I run this game in ultra graphics at 1440p for the most part. I am one of the players who should be seeing a net gain from this feature, and I'm not. I see a solid improvement in the warp gate when there is no action happening whatsoever, but as soon as I step into a battle, I am straight back to square one with no measurable gain by having NVIDIA DLSS turned on. And sure, the argument could be made to just run it anyway and take the benefits where I could, but on top of that, at 1440p, the impact of DLSS on the sharpness of the game, even on the quality setting, that being the setting of DLSS that does preserve the most amount of quality it can, was really noticeable. It actually made it harder to make out the edges of objects entirely for my eyes. So it's a setting that I will most certainly be leaving off. The only people I can see this setting actually helping realistically in this game will be the folks running on 4K ultra graphics, maybe. Beyond that, its application in PlanetSide is pretty useless. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news here guys, but for the most of you, this setting will not save frame rates. Anyway, moving on here to some slightly better news. All of the sights in-game across the board have been reworked to have consistent reticle sizing for any reticle of the same type. So, all dot sights will have the same size across all weapon classes. Same goes for the chevron sights, you get the picture. By the way, no pun intended there. It's a small quality of life feature that goes a bit of a way to making the shooting experience of this game just that little bit cleaner, which I must say, off the back of my 2023 priorities video for PlanetSide 2, I do appreciate. There's even been an option to change your reticle color across the board to all of the sights in the game, which is why you're seeing this season's gorgeous hot pink in full effect today in all of my reflex sights, because it's an amazing color for contrast and target acquisition for me in the game. The red and yellow colored sights, which were the sights that I found myself using most often, as good as they are, they tend to get lost in the explosions and TR armor in particular for me, so I've been liking this change a lot. I know a lot of you out there have been using crosshair overlays for years already, so this will be nothing new to you, but it's nice to see this customizability directly integrated into the game. On the topic of HUD readability and customizability for the first-person shooter side of the game, I'd actually love to see an option to customize our hit markers so we could signify, say, standard hits, overshield hits, headshot hits, all that other stuff differently. You know, other games like Battlefield do it nowadays. It'd be a great addition to the game in my opinion. But that may be dreaming a little bit, I must say. Moving on, remote vehicle spawning directly from the spawn menu is back in the game, which in all honesty, I am glad it is back. As I said in our video covering the update in which this feature was removed, which I believe was the November 10-year anniversary update, I always viewed the feature to pull vehicles directly from the spawn menu as more of a quality of life feature over a gameplay flow impacting feature, so to see it return is a welcome change for me at least. NSO weapons now also take on board accent colors that align to the faction that you are on at any given time. Good if you know, from time to time forget whose side you're on, or in my case, just need to double check on which side you are meant to team kill. As I've always said, you can take the boy out of the NC, but you can't take the NC out of the boy. New daily missions were also added to the rotation pool. There was a new Valentine's Day directive and Valentine's Day themed Amaterasu introduced to the game as well, which has been killing me a lot since this update, and a gender change token has been added to the game for your characters as well for 1,000 certs. So eat your heart out if you want to do a bit of gender swapping, I guess. One final entry I want to mention here quickly is the changes that have been made to the disruptor ammo available to select NC weaponry. Now, this attachment type has received some more standardization across all weapons and aims to improve its applicability for some of the weapons it was available on. Apparently, this ammunition was only providing a passive drawback for the Tempest, NC9 Atros, GD Guardian, and the AF8 Shadow since the Arsenal update. So, as the patch notes said, congratulations to all those who've been playing the game on hard mode since that Arsenal update. We're going to be doing a separate video on this ammunition in due time, as I want to dive into it with a bit more detail and really get into the sticks as to whether or not this thing is actually worth using at all. But I've got a sneaking suspicion it might not be, but we'll see how we go. You can also find a bunch of other changes in the patch notes, so I will leave that in the description down below for you all to read in your own time, because quite frankly, you can all read and you don't need me hand-holding your way through it. There is one final entry in the blog post here that does speak a little bit to the previously discussed construction update, talking about how the community feedback has been heard surrounding ant harvesting capabilities and the module upkeep responsibilities under this new proposed system. But the big ticket item here amongst this looking forward conversation is that an image was shared of the command center construction item up against an infantry tower and an ant for scale. We can see here that this thing is a hulking multi-story structure with a vehicle garage and multiple areas for infantry to fight in undisturbed, which I like the concept of. It'll be interesting to see how far this design philosophy stretches across the upcoming construction update and how many more structures we're going to see that are like this in nature. But that'll all be stuff that we see in due time and stuff we will cover when relevant. But now I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on the love letter update to PlanetSide 2? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Let's hear it down below, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to backhand the like button, as it does go a long way to supporting the channel. And if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button whilst you're at it to stay up to date with all future content. We're covering a lot of first-person shooter games at the moment, so your support is always appreciated, and I'm sure we've got something here for you. As always, my social media links can be found in the description down below, and if you want to support the channel further, consider becoming a channel member. That is always greatly appreciated. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.